We welcome you all to slow motion for this presentation of the Formula Vee Weekend Warrior Series, and we're about to grab the start in just a few moments' time. It's going to be Megan Overstreet leading them to green with Ladar right alongside. We're waiting for that green flag to come at, and the drivers are now on their way. Some of these drivers may be a little bit more aggressive towards the end of this race, as side by side with Love and DeGas is heading into 5.
Oh, it's close. It's a bit treacherous on the corner. Rex is just singling run wide there, Ron.
Down the running order, Love and Brewster, meanwhile, they have been in the tow and they've seen all these drivers try and do their own maneuvers. They definitely have something cooking behind the wheel of those FV race cars. As Montgomery gets that move done, one's running at the back. Well, not actually running right now, I don't believe, as there's a spinner with Ladar.
Oh, no.
Oh, and there's contact as well. Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome to Season 1 of 2025 for the Formula Vee Weekend Warriors. The home of the closest, most exciting, and most entertaining racing on the iRacing platform is back yet again, with 12 races this upcoming season, and it all begins now. This is round number 1 of the season, coming to you today from Brands Hatch. My name is Ron Maunz. Alongside me in the commentary booth is Adam Thompson, and in the virtual production hall we have Joshua Wilkie. And now, before we get things up and rolling from this broadcast and this season, I just want to say how awesome it is to be back for a brand new season. Season 4 of 2024 was a brilliant one, with some incredibly close racing and a great championship fight in both of the classes. But now, with this brand new season, we have some changes. A new schedule, some new drivers, and the introduction of the Masters class is certainly going to make this season one to remember. But to kick it off, we've got Brands Hatch, an old school racetrack with some old school race cars, and we're going to have some old school fun. This is going to be an awesome way to kick this season off, Adam. What do you think?
I am super excited. Did a bit of a draft party with these guys last night, and it was pretty interesting, Ron. Going through Druids might get a bit sketchy. I think halfway through the race or so, there was quite a bit of gravel going through Druids, and this new update may be causing some problems for the 36 drivers they have out on the grid today.
Oh, it's going to be really stacked in terms of the drivers that we have out there on the racetrack. 36 cars. I gotta say one thing as well on the subject of that. In Season 4 of 2024, we saw some brilliantly high participation levels. I think for some of the races we had throughout that season, we had upwards of over 40 cars. So brilliant to see the amount of racers out there on the racetrack and kicking things off at a wonderful racetrack. 9 corners in all around this 2.30 mile long track. It is a fantastic circuit in the world of motorsports, historic as well, and just about unchanged ever since the track was built many moons ago. Only a handful of changes every now and then, running on the full Grand Prix layout here today. Lap times in this practice session that we're still in the midst of right now, looking pretty okay, come to think of it. Currently, the quickest practice time is actually set by our reigning Spec 1 champion, running the number 1 Thor Tulo at a 1-minute 43.242, and the slowest time set by Russ Lundberg at a 1:47.3. So Adam, I think around a racetrack like this, which a lot of these drivers probably find to be a comfortable one to race around, gonna be seeing some drivers pretty close to each other.
Yeah, it's not going to be what you really would normally expect, though, I don't think, from these Formula V's. This is a bit more technical of a track than what I think a lot of us are used to when it comes to these cars, but it's gonna be interesting to see if Thor Tulo is going to be able to stay up there. I mean, I don't believe he was in the practice or the practice session last night, the draft party that we do, but I don't think it really matters when it comes to Thor Tulo because he is up there at the top right now. Jason Green is another one that was very quick last night. Antonio Reese is a driver we don't see that often. We've obviously got a new class system here for the Weekend Warriors this season, and Antonio Reese is going to be in the Masters division, and that's one thing I wanted to talk about real quick, Ron, is the car numbers. So we're not going to have any driver overrides for you on the first race, so you're not going to be able to distinguish on the top of your screen who the leaders are. You're going to have to take a gander at car numbers. Car number 1, obviously, Thor Tulo won last season in Spec 1, but with that being said, 0 through 199 are going to be your Spec drivers, your Spec 1 drivers. Chris Montgomery is going to be another one of those Spec drivers. We're watching him right now. Now, if you go back one, you can see Michelle Lynn back there. She has moved into Spec 2. That is why her car number is 215. So from car number 200 to 899 are going to be your Spec 2 drivers. Then 900 and above will be your Masters class. Ron, we got Masters class here this season.
Yeah, the first time in Formula Vee Weekend Warriors history that we do have a Masters class to contend with, and we got some heavy hitters in there as well. Here's one of them. This is Jörg Mani in the 925 car. He is a brilliant driver in the Formula Fords and the Spec Racer Fords, which you can catch every single Sunday here exclusively on Slow Motion Broadcasting. He's a fantastic driver in those cars. He's done a couple of races here with the Formula Vee Weekend Warriors, raced a couple of times last season as a Spec 1 racer, but now that we have the Masters category, he's going to be making the step up. The driver of the 925 car currently finds himself 7th in this practice session that we're in right now. But looking through some of the other Masters competitors, got Antonio Reese, Jörg Mani's teammate at Master Racing Team. Those two certainly going to be ones that we have to keep our eyes on. When I first got into the Weekend Warriors world, those two were kind of like itchy and scratchy in the Masters category. They were always the ones that we had to keep our eyes on. So here with the Formula V's, have a feeling that's going to be no different. But looking through, we got some other great racers in that Masters class as well. Alan DeGassis finds himself 13th in this practice session. Look a little bit farther back to Jim Brewster, who actually, before we move any further, we'll congratulate Jim Brewster, not only on setting the 3rd fastest practice time a couple of moments ago, but also officially retiring from work. So congratulations, Jim. Hopefully you enjoy some retirement and some Saturday Formula Vee action. Probably not enjoying the gravel on the outside of turn 1. I'm getting very bad flashbacks to the Week 14 UK Tour event, Adam, where turn 2 just seemed like an absolute slip and slide.
Yeah, get ready for Druids again, because it is absolutely no change in the Formula V's. I mean, even probably now, might be able to see, even as Jason Green should be coming through Druids eventually, sometime soon. You're going to see how much pickup there's about to be. Oh, no, Jason's already through it, I believe. But yeah, there is going to be a bunch of gravel going through turn 2. So get ready for that. Real quickly in the chat, Trenton Kramer says, new thumbnail, new music. What's next? New commentator? Are you looking for a job, Trenton? Huh? Come on in here, buddy. And then Luis saying, let's go. We have Maria Mafalda in the chat as well. Fernando Afonso, another new driver in the league. She is rooting him on today. So we've got, like we just mentioned, the new drivers, several of them, and several new spectator viewers as well to the stream. So welcome in, guys.
So may need a new commentator. So if anyone would like to take my job here at Slow Motion Broadcasting, why not write to us in an email at... Okay, I'm going to stop there. I would quite like to be able to keep on to my job. Maybe I'm going to have to try out a new accent or something like that. Go under a different alias.
Yes, Ron Maunz. Get yourself a bit of a French, just a little bit of a French punch to it right there at the end, Ron.
Well, actually, we got a new commentator in here. My name is Chip Quisley. Welcome, everybody, to the Formula Vee Weekend Warriors. Gonna be a darn amount of fun here today. Feel kind of bad whenever I do that accent on the air. And for those who have tuned into the Weekend Warriors world for many, many moons, I want to give a shout out to a guy who I used to commentate the Weekend Warriors stuff with a different broadcaster, a guy by the name of Mr. Charles Bichelle. He's a fantastic dude. He's from Birmingham, Alabama. So whenever I do a Southern accent on the air, I always feel kind of bad because I don't want to say anything rude. I don't want to come across as being slightly demeaning. Doing a country accent as a guy who has never lived anywhere outside the city of Philadelphia is a very strange experience for sure, but may end up seeing my alternative personality, Mr. Chip Quisley, appear all throughout this season. But coming to the end of this practice session right now, following Jason Perry in the number 97 car, lots of familiar faces in the Weekend Warriors world. Going back to the discussion of the Masters racers as well. Got Nick Tulo running here. He's currently down 25th in this practice session. And now I'm curious, Adam, do you think there's a real possibility that Nick Tulo could win the Masters Championship this season, and Thor Tulo could repeat in Spec 1 and have a father-son duo win 2 championships in the Weekend Warriors world? That I don't think has ever happened before, but if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be these two.
Yeah, I mean, one thing about Nick is he is a very quick, I think, Nick, please don't take this the wrong way. When I was racing in the Formula Vee series, there was a bit of a consistency issue there. But I mean, if he can keep the consistency on track, then I think he does have a serious shot at the Masters class. But the issue is, when we're talking about Masters driver, I mean, Antonio Reese has got to be one of the better ones. I mean, he's sitting there, obviously second in practice. Now, that was probably with the draft, but we're about to see here in qualifying here the real pace of all of these drivers, Ron, and then I will be able to answer that question much better.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see how things are going to shake out for this season. It feels like so much shorter than last. It's only one race taken away. We're going from 13 races to 12, but it feels like there's so little time for these drivers to try and get things done all throughout this season. And speaking of, as we still have a little bit of time left to go before these drivers start their first qualifying laps of this first race of the season, I think we should probably go through this season's schedule, because I'll tell you what, Adam, we've got a fantastic slot of races to look forward to. Kicking it off, of course, today here at Brands Hatch, going to be running out of Lime Rock Park on the classic layout at the next race of this season to bring 2024 to a close. That track always puts on some pretty good racing, so who knows, that's probably going to be another repeat. New Hampshire going to be playing host to a race right afterward. The new New Hampshire, with a fresh lick of paint on it on the iRacing platform. Got a chance to run a couple of laps around there not terribly long ago. Really looks nice, especially compared to the way that New Hampshire used to look on iRacing. That roval was janky. Those tire barriers as well, with tires made out of the matter of white dwarf stars. But New Hampshire on the roval going to play host
tires
to
made out
the
of what,
third
Ron?
race.
Excuse me?
The matter of white dwarf stars.
Okay. What is that?
A white dwarf is, I believe, like the later stages of a star that is nearing the end of its life, and it just completely collapses in on itself.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, that makes a lot more sense now. Okay, continue with the tracks. I'm sorry. I'm gonna start stopping you when you come up with all these puns, so I can get some more information. And it may not sound as cool, but I think everybody needs to know all of these puns that you come up with. You actually know what you're talking about, right? Like, I mean, it's just one of those things. But anyway, sorry.
That is a stretch that I know what I'm talking about. You're talking to someone who... I said this joke on Wednesday. I'm not really sure if it fell by the wayside, me graduating high school in the top 99% of my class. But I think before I start talking about my educational career anymore, we'll do a track guide with Jason Green, riding on board with the driver of the 160 car, heading his way off through turn number 1. Downhill, you can feel that understeer creaking into the car as he shoots down the track. Now going back up the hill through the braking zone of turn number 2. You can already see some gravel through that section as is. That's going to be a huge factor in this race, especially come time for the end of this 30-minute race we have coming up. This turn number 3, now on to the back section of the Grand Prix start-finish straightaway section, whatever you want to call it, right behind the paddock area. Now heading your way off through turn number 4. One of the hardest corners around this racetrack, in my honest opinion, Adam. Heading through there, so tough. You're going uphill, trying to aim for an apex, which you really cannot see. Really tough. But now heading down the longest flat-out blast around this entire track, heading under the bridge, about to head your way off through a series of corners which feel similar but all have their own unique twists and turns to them. No pun intended. That's turn number 5. Trying to hit the apex through there. Carry as much momentum as you can. It's such a momentum game in these Formula V's. All through turn number 6 right now. You can feel the track falling away from you. The understeer coming back to bite you on the butt. You can see a little bit of dirt through there as well. That bent area heading into, I believe it's Dingledell of turn number 7. Pretty quick corner. Don't want to get it wrong, though. Otherwise, you're going to end up in a world of trouble. Now, through turn number 8, the left-hander. First time you've had to turn left around this track since turn 4, about half the lap ago. Now, you got another small, low, flat-out blast under the Avion Bridge into turn number 9. This corner, one of the toughest in the world of motorsports. I can never get it right to save my life, but that right there is a lap of Brands Hatch.
You mentioned turn number 9, or I'm glad it's at the back side of the track, because you weren't going to let me get a word in that whole track, the whole track guide. When you start getting a bunch of drivers together, check. Am I chopped out? You said. Copy. Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, I think I feel kind of bad the fact I took that track guide, but I think Adam is dealing with some rather strong technical issues here right now. So the one time in which me being a consistent loudmouth has actually been a benefit, but you can see now these drivers saying some lap times already. Thortulo retaking his spot at the top to go to the provisional pole after just one lap, setting a 1-minute 43.318. That's a really good lap time for the driver of the number 1 car. Got 15 minutes of qualifying for these drivers to try and tackle 4 laps in order to get the job done. So let's see if anyone is going to challenge Tulo's claim at that front. Jason Green, those two, they're up at the front all throughout last season. Probably going to continue that same trend here into season 1 of 2025. And Adam, are you back from the Shadow Realm?
I might be. Do I sound better? Hello?
There we go.
I'm back. Anyways, turn 9. I wanted to mention that before my Discord decided to not communicate with everybody else and everything else that's going on my computer right now. When there is a bunch of cars nose to tail going through turn 9, these things do wash out quite a bit, Ron. So get ready, especially lap 1. A lot of these drivers may not have had any type of practice in a big draft pack. So we could see a lot of washouts going through the final corner.
That's certainly going to be a big factor in deciding how, especially the finish, is going to work out in this race. Of all the final corners to have throughout this season, that's going to be possibly one of the toughest. I think I'll briefly run through the rest of the season schedule as these drivers are still in the midst of this qualifying session. I think we left it off at New Hampshire, which is going to play host to the 3rd race of the season. Then we've got Okayama, Thruxton. That's going to be a really fun race. Donington Park, Sebring running on the club layout to be a bit more precise, which I believe played host to the first ever Weekend Warriors broadcast period on slow motion broadcasting with the Formula Fords, and then going to be heading to Lebanon shortly thereafter, followed by Alton Park running on that layout with the chicanes. Summit Point, Cadwell Park, and VIR on the north layout going to play host to the final few races of this 12-round season. And I will also mention this, and I may end up getting a swift kick up the rear end as a result of mentioning this. My fact-checking committee, my best friend Kate, who is actually in the room with me right now, lying in my bed as I'm yapping on the internet, she sent me a series of messages clarifying what a white dwarf star is. It's essentially the core left behind of a low-mass star. So I think that's just about how it is. I think my description may have been a bit off.
But, I mean, you got the pun right, so that's what really matters. Right now, we are on board here with Jeffrey Beck sitting back there in 26th place, Ron. Obviously, a new S2 driver, one of the many new faces here. Probably just trying to maybe still figure out the track just a little bit. But one thing that I want to mention, I don't think it matters where you start, Ron, especially in these Formula V's. It may not be as drafty as we normally would expect these to be, but there are still some pretty big straightaways here to cause a lot of battling.
Yeah, you usually think these Formula V races would be a giant draft party, which they are pretty much entirely throughout this season, but probably a little bit less so here at Brands Hatch. I remember a couple of seasons ago in the Formula V Weekend Warriors world, this track hosted a really intriguing race where the race was just about decided by keeping your nose clean. So yes. I think keeping your nose clean is something that's going to be weighing on these drivers' minds when it comes time for lap 1. So probably adding a bit more importance to this qualifying session. Yeah,
100%, especially with the amount of drivers we're going to have on track for this race. It's just going to be nutso. By the way, big shout out to all of the drivers who have shown up. And I think we have a sponsor here to shout out as well, Ron, and you're a lot better at talking than I am.
Well, I wouldn't say better, more so I am louder. I mean, Philadelphians are always remembered as being loudmouths. I remember Bill Burr telling the entire city that not terribly long ago. But yeah, we do have some sponsors to mention. You know, with this racing, you got to have some sponsors to keep the lights on. And in the Weekend Warriors world, some of the sponsors, more often than not, are actually some of the drivers that you see out there on the racetrack. So it should be noted at this point in time, as we're still in this qualifying session, that today's broadcast of the Formula V Weekend Warriors is brought to you by Donnie Isley. Donnie and the Isleys are fixtures of Formula V racing in real life and occasionally in the sim as well. And we'd like to thank Donnie for making these broadcasts possible, making this broadcast possible today at the very least. Thank you, Donnie. Thank you to the entirety of the Isleys. I saw some photos being shared earlier on today of the whole Isley family. Donnie, I believe his son Trip, and Donnie's grandson, I believe it is Trevor. There's a photo of them running some Formula V machinery in real life. They used to be a fixture of the Tuesday Night Ray Esports League as well. I believe they do occasionally still run in the Wednesday League, which you can catch every single Wednesday here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. But thank you, Donnie, for making this broadcast possible here today of a race where we're expecting some fireworks. Everyone wants to win the first race of the season, and we may have to wait and see how willing these drivers are to roll the dice to try and grab that victory.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one, to say the least. And another thing that I don't believe has been implemented here in the Formula V's, I think it got shot down, but there was almost some pit stops that may have had to happen in the Formula V's, but I don't think people are going to have to stop for this one. So it's just going to be a knockdown, drag out battle for the entirety of this race, especially when you get people like Jason Green and Thor Tulo starting on the front row. But Jason Green did mention during the draft party last night that he does not like starting in second place because it's a lot tougher to see when that lead driver goes. So keep an eye out for Jason Green. Maybe try to change up his start strategy just a little bit, because at least last night, the person starting in second place was down in fifth place by the time you get through turn one, and that's not where you want to be on the first lap of any of these races.
You don't want to find yourself in the midfield, especially with a giant pack of race cars like this, especially so considering turn number 2, probably by the time we make it into the race, it's just going to be a huge slip and slide. You can see the gravel there following Garcia right now. You can just see the smoke coming up in the air. That's not smoke from the cars or the tires. It's coming from the tires, but that's just like gravel dust getting kicked up into the air. So that's going to be a huge point to talk about come time for this 30-minute race we have coming up. The track going to be so dirty, it's like a George Carlin comedy set.
God. Oh, Ron, you just never stop, do you? Real quick here in the chat, Trenton Kramer, while we're on the dirty track, he goes, I wonder if the Rallycross crew got all the gravel off the track for this race. And Trenton, I think your question has been answered by that onboard or that panoramic shot of turn 2 going through Druid. So no, the Rallycross crew did not get any of the gravel off the track. They may have actually put a little bit more on it. Guido Marzucci in the chat as well. Guido, I'm glad you're hanging out with us, but I really wish that you were out there racing.
It's nice to see Guido out there every now and then. He's been a fixture of the past 2 seasons of the Formula Vee Weekend Warriors, but not seeing him on track here today. Certainly seeing a lot of racers out there, though. That's Jason Grider running very slowly through turn number 1. I'm curious, is he maybe trying to clean the track off, possibly? That, or he's like
putting more on it.
Really yeah, maybe, possibly. There's like a sabotage method. He's currently qualified in 25th at the moment. Maybe he's thinking, hey, if I kick just mounds and mounds and mounds of grass and gravel and dirt onto the racing line on turn 1, everyone's going to go off heading into Druids at the very beginning of this race. He's just going to slip and be able to take the victory. And, I mentioned the racing line, and stay tuned on the other Ray Esports channel for the racing line every single Tuesday night.
Except over the holidays. We are not going to have one Tuesday afternoon, evening, wherever you guys are in the world. But we will come back after New Year. So we got a couple weeks off, and then we're going to have Yanqi Lin, who was supposed to be on there with us before we took this holiday break. But Yanqi is going to be the first guest for the new year on the racing line.
And Yanqi, a fantastic racer in the iRacing world. The Chinese driver who I believe lives in the Great Lakes area, unless I'm very much mistaken. He is a brilliant sim racer. I believe he won the SCCA official runoffs on iRacing a couple of seasons ago. So he is a very fast driver. And in the Weekend Warriors world, I have called many amazing finishes in which he's taken the victory. I remember a couple of seasons ago with the Formula Fords, him and Christian Gabanco, who I'm hoping that we see return to the Weekend Warriors world. I was seeing some discussion about him maybe making his appearance yet again. That'd be pretty awesome. I think Josh can attest to it that Christian was always a pretty great driver to keep our eyes out on. I believe he's also a Philadelphia native as well, so I may be a little bit biased in that regard. Coming to the end, though, of this qualifying session, about a minute left to go. Most of the drivers already setting some lap times on the board, but up towards the front, looks like Green and Tulo, the drivers finished 1-2 in a decent chunk of races last season, and also finished P1 and P2 in that Spec 1 championship, going to resume their positions at the north end of the field.
Yep, I have a feeling that that's going to be a recurring thing that we see for most of the season. Both drivers, and Jason Green, like you just mentioned, is now in the lead, and that's where he wants to be. You want to be able to start the race from first place around here. Get on the gas whenever you want to. So yeah, it's going to be good. Going to be good for Jason. Now Thor's going to be in that hot seat, and Thor is a very, very clean but aggressive race car driver. So get ready for some fireworks going into turn 1. 45 seconds left here. Looking to see who's still out on track. It looks like everybody's basically completed their laps here, Ron. So this is when I do the thing where I ask you, give me your prediction.
Oh boy, I think usually I would just be completely clueless in terms of these predictions, but I have a pretty good feeling For this race victory, I'm feeling surprisingly good about Thor Tula. I say surprisingly, he's a reigning champion in the Spec 1 category this series. He's also a driver from the UK who I believe has probably driven a Formula V car around this very racetrack. I have a good feeling about him possibly grabbing the victory. I could even probably rattle off some quick championship picks by the end of this race. But, I'm going to save the possible embarrassment of me doing that. And we're going to move on to the starting grid, the first of this season. Jason Green going to be grabbing the first pole, saying a 1-minute 43.238 in the 160 car. Joining him on the front row is going to be Thor Tula. Chris Montgomery going to be starting in third. Matthew Marcia going to be starting this race from the fourth position. Estavo Laurencio, I believe would be the correct pronunciation of that. I apologize in advance to the driver of the number 95 car if that is incorrect, but he will be starting this race in fifth. Next to Jim Brewster grabbing the pole position of the Masters racers in the 933 car, starting in sixth. And we have Nate Colasio in seventh, Jason Perry in eighth, Jorg Mani in ninth, and Alan DeGassis completing an all-Masters fifth row and rounding out your top 10.
Antonio Reese, speaking of Masters, there are quite a few of them together here, starting in 11th with Suleiman Khan going to be starting in 12th place. And 13th, Chris Dowden, our first S2 driver. Again, please keep an eye on the numbers. That should be able to get you somewhat close. Obviously, 200 to 899 are going to be S2. So Chris Dowden going to be coming home with the lead in the Spec 2 class with Mark Cohn in 14th, Michelle Lynn in 15th, Kurt Nunez in 16th, Andrew Love in 17th, Daniel Salmon in 18th, Javier Rapules in 19th, and Arthur Lorero rounding out your top 20. I'm going to go ahead and go through the rest of these if you don't mind, Ron. Nick Tulo in 21st, Stevie Ray in 22nd, Brian Suzinski in at 23rd with Jeff Jacobson rounding out your top 24. Greider, Latarulo, Garcia, Afonso, Melee, Stazinski, Beck, Hansen, Rail, Lundberg, Fitzgerald, and myself rounding out your top 25 with top 35 with Frederick Dumont coming home, or starting in 37th. And real quick, I was trying to get to Fernando Afonso there. We do have a Fernando Afonso fan club right now sitting in the YouTube chat. Quite a few drivers, or quite a few viewers rooting on Fernando Afonso.
Yeah, certainly going to be a fan favorite. Let's see how he can do. I believe he's a newcomer in the Weekend Warriors world. I do believe he has been on a broadcast in the past here on SMB. I think it was part of the Motor Racing Academy broadcast that was here on SMB a couple of months ago. So not the first time he's been on here. May not be the last. I think he's a pretty competent sim racer, so let's see how things are going to go for him as he tackles this brand new adventure in the world of racing. 12 races in front of us. It's all set to begin here at Brands Hatch. Some old school race cars around an old school racetrack. Let's see if that's a match made in heaven or a match made in hell. But ready to get things up and rolling for the first race of this brand new season. Season 1 of 2025. Let's see what sort of adventures that it has in store. That pace car's made the turn to come down pit lane, as has one of the competitors. That's Monty. Not sure what's going on there, but the green flag is down. The drivers are on their way. That's pretty early jump from Jason Green. Gonna try and lead them comfortably, heading off into turn number 1. Thortula looking to slip in right behind Chris Montgomery in third. Some side-by-side racing a little bit farther in the back. That, I believe, is Jim Brewster going side-by-side with Lorenzo there, heading through turn number 1. Those two drivers running in 4th and 5th as it stands at the moment, but at the north end of the field, heading their way through Druids for the first time by, it's Jason Green leading up.
Yep, Jason Green did a great job getting a great jump, but I do want to mention Thor Tulu got a very good jump in second place, able to hold on to that second place, and now it's just going to be knockout, drag out, and this is what I wanted to talk about. First lap going through Graham Hill. I had a feeling there were going to be some issues here.
Yeah, trying to see what car that is that just went off the track a little bit farther in the back. I think, unless I'm very much mistaken, that may have... Oh my God, that's a big wreck coming out of turn number 4. Multiple cars around. We're hearing that Stevie Ray was involved in that. Possibly Michelle Lynn getting a piece of that action as well. Jason Perry involved as well. That was a big collision coming out of turn number 4 a couple of moments ago. Slightly usurping that spin coming out of turn 3 right before then. I believe that may have been Garcia in the 505 car that we saw have that moment. Still unsure as to why Jorg Monty came down pit lane. Looks like it was just a drive-through penalty for him, but not sure how he picked up a drive-through penalty on that formation lap. But lots of cars getting taken out in that lap 1 turn 4 incident. Adam, didn't take long before drama kick off.
No, it didn't. I'm wondering if Jorg, I thought he may have had qualifying fuel in the Formula V, but I don't know. And I probably may be the only one that has found a way to run the Formula V out of fuel when you don't have pit stops. But maybe he wanted to avoid that. But if you said it was just a drive-through, it was. Looks like Thortulo is going to make the move there on Jason Green, though Jason's not going to battle him. Jason is going to be very, very smart about this. Pretty nose to tail up front, all the way back to Colecchio there in 7th place, I think, is going to be that first 7-car battle. But look at this. This is just going to get worse going through Druids. I mean, there is already plenty of gravel on the track there, Ron.
Looking at the gravel dust in the air, absolutely beautiful. Looks like a beautiful crisp morning in Los Angeles, California back in 1985. These racers trying to pick their way through the smoke. Tulo doing it like a dream thus far. First time we've mentioned it thus far, certainly not going to be the last. We now begin the Formula V Season 1 of 2025 game of Leapfrog. But as we continue to see some battling up at the north end of the field, maybe got to see some moves for the final podium spots between Montgomery and
Look at Green, though. Green
Look
going
at
for
Green.
a move.
There we go. Green trying to get the move done down the inside into turn number 5.
My goodness.
Look at that. Getting a beautiful view of the inside of Thortulo's cockpit as Green gets a move done for the lead.
That was a very, very interesting spot for Jason Green trying to take that position, but Thortulo's not going to really sit back like I expected him to be, and they've got to be careful here. Andrew Love is sitting back there about 3 seconds off of these guys, and if they battle like this, it's just going to stack all of them up, and this is going to turn into a much bigger race than they wanted or had in mind. But I do think we have some replays for us here at the beginning of the race to see exactly what happened.
And here is this replay following Jason Perry in the number 97 car. You can see him 3 wide coming out of turn number 3, and you can see the drama a little bit farther in the back. I think Brian Szynski may have gotten a piece of that incident, but here's Perry sideways, slideways, spinning it through turn number 4. Then Michelle Lynn coming in, and you can see Perry going upside down. He got center punched there. Not sure who that was. Trying to see a number off of that race car. There's Stevie backing it into the barrier along this racetrack. Not sure who that was that center punch Perry, though, but at the north end of the field, Jason Green has been shuffled back down to second. Montgomery now running in P2, but Green now finding himself in a very intense battle just to remain in the podium spots.
To talk about that incident at the beginning of the race there, as we watch this pass, it looks like, that is Lorenzo, and we've got actually someone rooting him on in the chat there, side by side with Jason Green. Unbelievable racing by those drivers. Jason, though, able to hold on at least to 3rd position, but oh my goodness, I'm never going to be able to talk about that incident. We're 3 wide, Ron.
Holy cow, 3 wide racing didn't take us long, folks. Only 4.5 minutes into this 12-race season with 30-minute races for all of them, and we're already going 3 wide off it to turn number 5 a couple of moments ago. Green being able to retake the lead. Tulo now finding himself in second, riding on board with Jim Brewster, who's leading in the Masters category as it stands at the moment, currently slotted in 4th overall, but he finds himself in a very good position. Jim Brewster, he is in the Formula V side of things. He's one of the series admins, so we're definitely mentioning this because both he's a very quick driver in this, and he's also a very nice guy that we get to interview every now and then. But Jim, he is further proof in the Weekend Warriors world that despite the Masters tag, it doesn't mean that he isn't going to be punching with some of the Spec 1 racers. You got Thortulo and Jason Green, both young guys who are going side by side now, heading off into turn number 1. Tulo on the outside, Green on the inside. Looks like Green going to withstand that challenge and remain at the front of this field. But Jim Brewster going to be battling as hard as he possibly can between now and the checkered flag. And looking through in the Spec 2 class, I believe the current leader in that is Andrew Love running in 8th. He's a reigning Spec 2 champion here from the Formula V Weekend Warriors, so it's looking like most of the heavy hitters regaining their footing.
iRacing, for the love of God, please watch this broadcast. If anybody from iRacing is watching this broadcast, watch it. And please tell me why the gravel is not clearing off of that track. There are some type of physics issues going on right now that is just crazy, and it's just going to get worse as the race goes on. But quickly in the chat, Luis said Thor is a dope name and from Japan. I found the driver I'll be rooting for. That is a good one to root for, Luis. He is actually from Japan, living over in the UK now, though, with his father, Nick Tulo. So, yeah, absolutely, Thor, great driver, great human being with an even better name. Whoa. So, absolutely nothing going on there. But we saw an off track there as It looks like Jason Green is still going to be able to hold on to Brewster, but Brewster's made his way up into third place.
Green is feeling the burn. That was a major moment coming out of turn number 6, I believe it was, not terribly long ago. Still remaining in second for now. However, the gap between himself and Tulo has ballooned to about 0.6 of a second, but he is still within striking distance of him. A 0.6 of a second gap in all racing categories. That is pretty small. And the Formula V's, pretty much the largest gap that you can get. I mean, you can have a 1.2 second gap and you can still find yourself getting overtaken by the end of that lap. You just never know how strong the draft is. Riding on board with Laurencio in the number 95 car, heading his way off through turn number 1. You can see him nearly going for a spin off the track. And look at the dust heading through there. Turn number 2, just absolutely caked in gravel. It's so stoned that, and we're off the air.
Yeah, very nice, Ron. You could see Estavo, you could see how loose he did get going into turn 2, and that's going to just get worse. And especially when you are in the dirty air, which, let's be honest, it doesn't look like there should be any on these cars because they're shaped like pencils, but there is. I promise you, there is dirty air, which doesn't help either because the front end's going to want to wash out, and then you start getting into that gravel, then the rear wants to go. It's just not a very good situation for these drivers right now. And again, keep in mind, turn 9, that's going to be another issue, is we've got a battle here. Chris Montgomery does get by Estavo, pushes Estavo back down into 5th place, but they need to hold on. Have to hold on here to that lead pack if they don't want to watch them go, because it's getting a bit treacherous. About 1.2 seconds is when you lose the draft of the drivers behind them. We do have another shout out as well for Fernando Afonso. If we could get to Fernando Afonso, thank you, Mr. Producer. Man, you're good at what you do. Back here in 18th position, Maria Mafalda has been shouting him out the whole race. He's actually up 10 positions from the start of this race, doing a great job.
Yeah, he is a hard charger thus far in that number 22 car. Looking through to see some of the other hard chargers, I think the driver who's made up the most spots thus far is, I believe, Brian Hansen, running just 1 spot in front of Alfonso. He's up 15 spots from where he started in this race. Brilliant drive thus far for the driver of the 771 car. There he is, the Spec 2 racer, heading his way through turn number 9 right now, leading this small little pack. It's a pretty big cushion between himself and Michael Latarula a little bit farther up the road, as Afonso trying to get a move done around the outside of Hansen, heading off into turn number 1. Afonso on that outside line. Will he be able to get it done? Side by side, still heading back down the hill. This is going to be a very close race as they head now through the braking zone of turn number 2. Still got Hansen on that inside line. Look at Brian Szynski and his brother Danga trying to get some moves on, a contact being made heading through the corner. Those 2 cars are glued together and bang into the wall. Szynski, both of them getting involved in that.
We've got the producer back here saying words that I cannot say on the air, but this has been unbelievable, and we caught it live too. This is what we call the commentator's curse. Fernando Afonso, welcome to slow motion broadcasting, my friend.
That was a messy incident all around. I think we have to take a look at some replays of that, because that was just plain ugly. There's no other way to describe it. Look at Szynski, ever the opportunist, trying to get that move done on Afonso. Afonso staying a little bit close to that inside line, and then, oh boy, okay. So overall, just a really messy incident. Both of the Szynskis, some Formula V racers in real life as well, getting involved in that. I'm curious, Josh, if we can maybe, as we go back to the live action, if we can take a look at another replay of that Afonso and Szynski's incident coming out of turn number 2. I want to ride on board with Afonso, but I want a good view of his steering wheel. Yeah, so
this is one thing that we need to think about as well while we get that one queued up. Is there was actually, during week 13, Michelle Lynn put on a Nürburgring race in these Formula V's, and somewhere around there might be a video of a driver being hooked on to Guido Marzucchi, and about half of the track around the Nürburgring he was hooked on, could not get unhooked. There is a bit of an issue right now with the netcode contact and the netcode attachments of these drivers, and we'll see what happens here.
It's clearly the V in Formula. Yeah, you can see it. He's turning out. He doesn't want to do anything. There's just nowhere to go for either of these racers. Clearly, the V in Formula V standing for Velcro.
Yes, zing, Ron. Congratulations, you win. But we're back up here at the lead. Jason Green does get back around Thor Tulo, and this is going to be one of those things that we're probably going to see. But again, a driver we haven't talked about, that we talked about a lot, Nate Colecchio. Back there in 5th place in the Chiquita Bananas Formula V car, may win paint of the season from last season, but always around, and if you give him a sniff at a win or a position, he's going to take it, Ron.
Yeah, I mean, he's been in contention for some victories thus far. I say thus far with his time in the Formula V Weekend Warriors. Ran some races last season, and whenever he was making his appearance in those races, he was always a driver that we had to keep our eyes on. He is really quick in these Formula Vs. I don't believe he grabbed the victory last season. However, he certainly got close in that very striking livery, and as it stands at the moment, he finds himself in a pretty good position to do well, running in 5th and not terribly far off the leader, who is currently Tulo, Green, and Brewster rounding out your podium as it stands at the moment, and Andrew Love still holding on to the lead in the Masters category in that 544 car. My apologies, not the Masters category, Spec 2. My apologies, Brewster still leading in the Masters. But looking at this hornet's nest of race cars right now, I think I have to go back to Murcia running in the 7th position to find the farthest car from that front pack fight.
Yep, and it's still a 7-car battle. Kurt Nunez has fallen way off. He's about 7 seconds behind this 7-car battle, so this has definitely turned into a 7-car pack. They can battle as much as they want up there, and I don't think they're going to have an issue with Kurt Nunez catching them right now, almost halfway through the race as well. You could see just the gap from this aerial view, Ron, of how far back Kurt Nunez is. So it's going to be a knockdown drag out here for the next about 15 minutes for these drivers. I would expect them, well, I've said this before, I would expect them to keep it a little bit calm and just get to the end of the race, but they are going for moves on each other that I am just extremely impressed / worried about as we get later on into this race.
Yeah, some of these moves that we've seen thus far are definitely a bit on the sketchy end, especially so considering that we aren't even at the halfway mark of the first race of this season. Think of it this way, we have got 6 hours of racing to look forward to, 12 rounds of 30-minute long races, and we haven't even hit the halfway mark of the first, and we've already seen some drivers going for some 3-wide moves, the Formula V Velcro already playing a factor in a collision involving 3 separate racers, all of which are putting on a really good show, but sadly things falling apart as a result. Some really bad iracing glue. But, and that's a big crash heading down the start-finish straightaway. Nunez and DeGassis, and upside down, twirling down that start-finish straightaway is Alan DeGassis, who flips it back up onto his wheels. But what in the world happened there, Adam? That looked like some bump drafting gone desperately, desperately wrong. But either way, a flipper heading down that start-finish straightaway.
I don't know why anybody would try to bump draft in these cars. First of all, what does he do? I'm not going to say anything about that one, and I think we should probably move on before you say anything either, Ron.
Back to live action here from the Formula V Weekend Warriors. Thor Tulo, who are riding on board with, is still the leader. Jason Green finds himself in second, about a quarter of a second back. Then you have to go 0.2 of a second back to Brewster. Then you go 0.2 of a second back to Montgomery. Then you go 0.2 of a second back to Coliseum. This front pack, for as long as I've been doing these Formula V Weekend Warriors broadcasts, I will always see these packs and think, holy cow, this field is going to blow apart. But these racers, a lot of them have been around the block in the Weekend Warriors world. Even Nate Coliseum, who we're riding on board with right now in the number 8 Chiquita Banana car, he is a driver who's gotten some experience in the Formula V Weekend Warriors. I wouldn't say he's got seasons and years of experience like the likes of Tulo, Green, Brewster, and Montgomery in front, but he's still an experienced racer in this series. He's not a newcomer. At this point in time, the only newcomer in this pack is really Lorenzo in the number 95 car. He's the only newcomer. That's about it. But these drivers up towards the front, they're gonna race each other hard, as we're seeing Tulo and Green side by side hang their way off through turn number 1. They're gonna race each other hard because they know what they can do. Look at the smoke. Look at the dust getting kicked up in the air from these racers heading their way through the gravel. That's not off-track excursions. The off-track excursions cause turn number 1 to look more like a rally special stage than anything else. But no, that is just the amount of smoke and the dust getting kicked up in the air from these drivers. It is insane. I feel like for as long as I'm doing Brands Hatch broadcast with this current season, I'm going to mention it all the time about the gravel accumulation
heading out of turn number 2.
Yeah, and it's going to, like I said, it's only going to get worse. I promise you that. But still, looking at these drivers, they're hanging on to it somehow for now. And now that I say that, they're probably not going to. And it looks like Brewster is the only sensible one at this point. I almost wonder if we can get on board with Brewster here as these drivers are going too wide after too wide after too wide. Brewster is never going for any moves. He's just still sitting back there in 3rd place. There might be some lifting happening here. Brewster may be playing the long game.
Yeah, I can't necessarily blame him for that. He is a veteran of the series. He's the series admin. He knows his way around some of these Formula V Weekend Warriors races. He's been here. He's done that. I remember last season for the 2nd race of that season at VIR, he came within, I'm not even sure the best way I can describe it. He came within a small little cough drop away from winning that race. Thortullo ended up getting the job done in front of him, but Jim Brewster, he is a very fast racer, and he's fast, but he also knows his way around these races. He knows when to push, when to back off, when to try and get a move done like he's trying to get done on green around the outside through turn number 1. That's some bold stuff from Brewster. Maybe just testing the
I think
waters,
he's lifting. He might be. I think he might be looking around maybe for a move, see where he might be able to make his move, but he could have very easily gotten at least front axle with Mr. Green, but he didn't. I do think there's quite a bit of lifting here. Brewster, I think, is just scoping this out. He's a shark in the water right now, and I'm going to take my pick. And Mr. Jim, I really, really hope I don't do this to you, but I'm taking Jim to win this race. He is absolutely playing the long game, being extremely patient right now.
You can see a driver come down pit lane. There's Michael Lattarulo in the 826 car, so not sure what's going down there. Gotta take a look at a replay. Here's Russ Lundberg in the 291 car. This may have been a simple off-track excursion coming after turn number 2, which I believe it is for the RGL Motorsports car. Heading through turn number 3 right now, and that's a simple spin.
Yep, and now does he hold his brakes? What happens here? Does Russ wait? There could be an issue happening. He tries to get back out on track, and he does it. Okay, yeah.
Pretty simple, happens to work.
Well, real quickly here, why don't we take a minute while we're watching this battle and going up front here, and we have the opportunity this week to say that we have a 3rd commentator in the booth here as well. And Joshua, I know you're doing a lot right now as we're watching another battle, and there's lap traffic. Never mind. Let's just get
we're 3 wide again.
Give us 1 second. Russ Lundberg is sitting right here going through turn 1, and this is not good.
Oh my God, look at this hornet's nest. Dealing with the traffic, that is going to be a killer in these races. Green, though, in the lead. Tullo in P2. Montgomery and Brewster now side by side battling for the final podium spot, heading down into turn number 3. That is a terrifying moment if you are the lapped car of Lundberg. That is about as scary and hair-raising of a moment as you can possibly get. Oh, look at Coliseo going off into the grass. Sideways, slideways, well held from Nate Coliseo. Keep that car going in a straight line. I have no idea how he managed to do that, but he did. Nearly running into the back of Montgomery, heading off into turn number 4 a few moments ago. That was a hair-raising moment for all of these drivers at the front of the field. Got to follow Jim Brewster's perspective in all this in the 933 car. Heading his way down into turn number 3, trying to get that move done on Montgomery. Gets it done successfully. However, I think the stack up of cars led to that moment with Coliseo, and he's now involved in a side-by-side fight with Lawrence Chino heading through. That was terrifyingly close.
Guys, get single file, please. You're going to lose the leaders. Finally, they figure it out. Laurencio does finally get in front of Nate Colicchio, but now, or Coliseo, I don't know which one it is. Nate, hit us up and let us know how to pronounce your last name, please. But look at what has happened right now, Ron. That gap, just from half a lap. Look at how far behind 5th place is from 4th place at this time. They're 1.3 seconds behind. They're out of the draft, Ron.
Yeah, that's the thing with these races. You get a small little bit of time loss, and you could just find yourself sent back into Neverland. Brewster, who we're running on board with right now, he's still in the draft, and he's our camera car. The side-by-side fight. Tula running wide at turn number 1, kicking some more gravel off.
Don't do it.
and here we go. Brewster so close to making contact with Montgomery. Brewster, as you said, he's been playing the patient game all throughout this race. Is he going to pounce on it, though? I mean, we're coming to the end of this race here, Adam. Looking at the clock, we've only got 8.5 minutes left to go. I think Brewster at this point, he's trying to figure out when and where he can get those moves done to maybe grab the victory.
All right, I'm sitting here trying to do some quick math here, okay? And this is not going to be good because I've tried to go to college 3 times and I have yet to finish college. But we're good. We're at about 1 minute 43 second lap times. Last time was 1:44. So 1:44, carry the 5, get rid of the 2 times 8. We're looking probably around 3 or 4, maybe 5 more laps. I'm just going to open it up. We're looking at around 2 to 10 laps left in the race, okay? So Brewster is going to have to make a move quickly. He's going to have to start making some moves to get at least up into a position because he's not going to be able to overtake 3 cars on the last lap. Jim Brewster, I am rooting for you. Please, please, for the love of God, please win this race. But he's got to start making at least a move or 2 to get himself into a position to be there on the last lap, Ron.
Well, I could definitely tell that you're rooting for Brewster heading into the final stages of this race, but I gotta say, inflating my ego just a teeny tiny bit, I said that Thortula was a good pick to win this race. He's been leading it throughout most of it. He may not be leading it for a while, though, as Jason Green got a move done down the inside, hang off into turn number 1. Is Green gonna be successful? Yes, he will. Some side-by-side racing will continue between these two as Green runs a little wide, and that's contact, a huge crash coming out of turn number 1 and upside down. That is a big collision with Nate Coliseo and Estevao Lorenzo. That was a big collision coming out. Turn number 1, a small little bit of wheel-to-wheel contact. Gonna send them straight into that inside tire barrier coming out of turn 1. Let's take a look at a replay of this. You can see Lorenzo running wide, and then Coliseo trying to use as much of the asphalt to his disposal that he could. That was a huge hit for him as well to go upside down.
It was, and there's really not much either one of those drivers could do. Estevao had to get back to the track eventually. Coliseo wanted to get out. He wanted to use as much track because they're trying to get back to the back of the pack there, and it's just, man, it's just one of those things that there's really not much else you can do, and I would consider that a try again next week, guys, and thank God they don't have to pay for the repairs of their car. They just pay for iRacing, which is not cheap either. But, yeah, back up here to the front again. Well, actually, no. Let's follow. Now I'm confusing him. Now I've got it confused. We're looking at Jurg Mani and Daniel Salmon and Suleiman Khan. We've got a bit of a battle back here starting to form. Daniel Salmon obviously sitting in Spec 2. Looks like he's leading Spec 2 right now. Am I correct in saying that, Ron? I think I am. Daniel Salmon up in 8th place, leading the Spec 2. And no, Andrew Love is up there. Daniel Salmon sitting in second place in Spec 2. But Jurg Mani, really not even close to Jim Brewster, and maybe Jim Brewster is playing the long game just to win his class today.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to these fights, with the Weekend Warriors world, you aren't judged by your class position, more so you're judged on your overall position. A class win would certainly be nice as well, but Jim Brewster, in terms of that championship fight, it's so early to mention it on. We haven't even seen a checkered flag this season, but Jim Brewster already trying to play the long game. I think he is definitely the favorite heading into the season for the Masters category for Season 1 of 2025 in the Formula Vee Weekend Warriors. Certainly proving that right now, running in the 4th position at the moment. Murcia, we haven't really mentioned him too much. Matthew Murcia running in the 5th spot in the number 78 car. He may play a role in how this race finishes as well, with about 5 minutes left on the clock. Let's see how things work out here, Adam. Side-by-side racing with Green and Tulo. They're going to be side-by-side hang off into turn number 5. Only in the Formula V's would he see a move like that attempted, but he can get it done with that long straightaway that follows it. Looking still side-by-side out of the corner.
Here, though.
Green not able to get it done. Look at Montgomery.
Oh, that was a very, very dangerous overtake by Chris Montgomery. Green is going to lose 2 positions here. Brewster is probably going to make the move around the outside. No, Brewster lifts to let Green back in, so Green is going to have to get back up there to these two. This is about to be a tongue twister, so let me slow it down, because Thor Tulo is going to be able to get to gap. I cannot talk right now. Jason Green, if Jason doesn't get back up to him, but it looks like he's done it. Great move by Jim Brewster to lift and then let this battle move on. 4 minutes left, Ron.
How much wood could Woodchuck chuck if a Chuck could Chuck would. How much Formula V racing could you get on the iRacing platform? We're getting it in shovelfuls at this point. This is some brilliant stuff right now. I had to break out the very nice technical term of shovelful. I mean, actually, I say that. It just starts. Oh, and that's a big crash through turn number 2. Green going to ballpark it possibly. He's upside down, though. Montgomery going sideways through turn number 2, and Jason Green with nowhere to go in the 160 car. That's got to take both of those cars out of the fight. And for the 2 drivers who we saw finish 1-2 in the Spec 1 championship last season, not going to happen to kick this season off. Tulo going to be in the lead. He may have an insurmountable gap at this point because you have to go back 1.8 seconds to Jim Brewster. This may be Tulo's to win. Now Brewster's going to have to worry about Murcia and Murcia only, as we got to take a look at this replay to see the drama that we just saw break out moments ago. Montgomery was running such a smooth race in the 313 car. Maybe tries to go for the move on Tulo and breaks himself a little bit sideways, and then bang, there goes Jason Green. A wild ride off into the dirt, lawn darts it into that outside tire barrier. A tough collision for those 2 running such a good race, but they're not going to get a good finish.
Yep, that is very, very unfortunate what happened there, and there's nothing either one of those drivers could do. And we mentioned Druids and how slick it might get with that gravel. These things don't really have to worry about the gravel too much, but they still do get extremely loose under off throttle. Just oversteered, getting off the throttle there did Chris, and Green had absolutely nowhere to go. And Thor Tulo has won this race now, so now we're looking at a battle here for second place between Brewster and Murcia. And Murcia obviously Spec 1 Brewster in the Masters class. You have to go all the way back to 5th to find Nick Tulo back in 6th. Speaking of Nick Tulo, 15 positions come out of nowhere in the Masters class up into 6th place right now.
But strangely enough, Adam, he is not the hard charger. He isn't the hard charger by far. Going back to Brian Hansen in 9th, 23 positions gained, folks. I think I just blew out my microphone there. But 23 positions gained is a ridiculous sum of overtakes that he has had to do thus far. Hansen in the 771 car. This has been a brilliantly executed drive from him, and he's not necessarily alone in that pack as well. Go back to Travis Rail in 12th. He's up 21 positions. Go back to David Fitzgerald in 15th. He's up 20. Lots of drivers cutting their way through the field like a hot knife through butter in this race. It has been fantastic, but I think this race slowly coming to a close. Only about a minute and 5 seconds left on the clock. Looking very good for Tulo still at the front.
Our producer trying to tease us with some things and telling us he's not going to do it, man. You got it. Come on now. It's like Christmas right now, man. You just bring us some presents, man. Give us a gift. But Thor Tulo up here in first place, now 3 seconds ahead. Thor Tulo needed that 1.2 second gap. Goodbye, Thor Tulo.
He's just entirely checked out, driving off into the sunset. I won't say I called it because he's still got one more lap of racing action around Brands Hatch to try and get the job done. Trust me, I've done that before. I do not want to repeat that performance from myself as a commentator. But now, Brewster, you may feel some pressure from Murcia. They're going to be side by side, nearly heading off into turn number 1. Matthew Murcia in that number 78 car. He's a driver who's good in the Formula Vee Weekend Warriors world, but haven't really seen some stuff in the past that would really stand out for him to be a big championship contender. But a second place result, second place in the Spec 1 drivers is just about confirmed, but second place overall, that would be a really impressive performance to kick the season off for.
It absolutely will be, and a driver that we really don't talk about that much overall that is always there is obviously Jim Brewster, sitting back there in second place, and there's probably going to be a battle forming there at the end of this race, but we've got a couple more battles going on. Well, never mind, and the battle I was talking about is now here, Ron.
And here we go under the bridge for the final time, side by side to the fast right-hander of turn number 5. Brewster on that inside line, Mercedes on the outside line, and look at that, Brewster mega sideways on the inside of Matthew Murcia. that could have ended in disaster, but Brewster remaining strong. I gotta say, not sure if my perspective's a little bit odd in all of this, but you can just see how dirty these two race cars look after all the gravel they've had to run through all throughout this race. They're gonna need a strong wash. The real question is, which one is going to be washing with champagne and which one's going to be washing with soap? That remains to be determined. Looks like Mercia's got that move done to slip his way up into P2. Meanwhile,
Brewster's going to go for it here, though. He's got
going to win it. Look at Brewster, maybe going to go for it around the outside into turn number 9. The over-under, waiting for Mercia to run wide. He hits the grass on the outside of turn number 9. It's a photo finish for second. Tulo wins it, but Brewster and Mercia coming to the line. My God, beautiful.
Unbelievable driving by Mercia and Brewster there. Mercia comes home in P2. Brewster comes home in P3. Thor Tulo's won the race. Looking back here to see if we can get a couple battles. Suleiman Khan is, I think, in a battle right now. If we can get to him real quick with Jorg Mani. And there it is.
Oh, and here we go. Mani leading this small little train of himself, and Khan coming out of the final corner. Looks like it's going to be Jorg Mani finishing in 7th. Khan, though, very
Josh,
close.
We got to get back to Michelle Lynn and Mark Cohn as well. I'm sorry, Michelle Lynn and Mark Cohn are locked in a battle right now. This really isn't for much, but they are side by side.
Oh, and look at Perry side by side with Lynn, heading their way through turn number 5 for the final time in this race. Look at Cohn. He's going to try and get some moves done in the 239 car. Got 2 Spec 2 drivers and 1 Spec 1 racer. Jason Perry started this race upside down. Is he going to end it in the top 20, though? Mark Cohn trying to get a move done on Michelle Lynn. They're side by side, heading down the hill, up now into turn number 7 for the final time. Cohn on that inside line. Michelle holding it around the outside. Well done for Michelle to remain around the outside and in 20th in that 215 car. Will she be able to get another move done to slip her way up into 19th? Is Perry going to lose out on this spot in the number 97 car? Will they be side by side? Is Michelle Lynn focusing on a good exit coming out of this final corner of turn number 9? She runs all the way off into the dirt, some lawn mowing in the end of this Formula Vee Weekend Warriors race. She's got the run, but it's not going to be enough. Jason Perry going to finish in 19th. Michelle Lynn will round out your top 20.
Never mind. It looks like Latarulo may be in a battle here. I think it's with Hank Melee. It is, or are they already done? They've already been lapped. I think, yep, this is this race over. Excuse me, guys. I'm trying to get through the field here now. If we go back up to, I know Jason Green is out of this. Thor Tulo. There was a bit of a jump here after Druids. I wonder if anybody's going to take it. So if we see anybody forming up after Druids, obviously in normal Weekend Warriors fashion, there could be some things going on here.
I wonder if we have the slow motion broadcasting satellite camera, aka just a really zoomed out blimp shot here to see if there's any sort of weird, odd, bizarre, kooky, whatever word you want to use, shenanigans around this racetrack. Following some drivers still running very, very quick at the end of this race.
I think they are. Yeah, I think we're getting confused up here. It looks like they're still racing. They are just kind of screwing around at this point, just making it to the end. But, man, they're driving pretty hard just to be – there's no way – right? Huh. All right, interesting. But, well, yeah, I think they're just driving around now. I think they're just doing some Flying V stuff. But, yeah. Ooh, and there we go.
That was a jump scare. Oh, and again, upside down.
There it is.
Did Suleiman Khan? Oh, and there's Hansen getting hit. Yes. Did we just see Suleiman Khan ballpark it heading around turn number 2? I think we might have. I think
Michelle Lynn. Oh, my God!
Oh, my dear sweet baby Jesus.
What is happening?
There's Michelle upside down. Dan Szynski damaged, ready for the scrap heap. There's Michelle upside down. Brian Hansen running into the front of Michelle Lynn. She is parked there. Got a nice selection of cameras. I think we need to issue out a bill to some of these races to replace some of these cameras. The iRacing mechanics going to need a whole lot of Red Bull to get these cars repaired for the next race of the season at Lime Rock. And look at Perry bouncing around some gymnastics moves at the end of this Formula Vee Weekend Warriors race. There's Michelle still upside down.
Yep, they're trying here. See, it looks like Thor Tulo is going to be coming back for round number 2 here, so watch out, Michelle Lynn. I think Thor Tulo is going to be on the move. Oh, no, he's already broken. He can't get there. I love this. This is my favorite part of these races. So, I mean, we can, people bouncing off barriers and stuff.
Monty ballparked it.
Yep. All right. So yeah, we got some results for you here, I think. Just that picture, all of these drivers just out there right now. This is just unbelievable. But yeah, some results for you here whenever we can get the producer to bring those up. Thor Tulo, obviously the driver we just saw, finishing in first place with Matthew Murcia in second. Jim Brewster does come home third after a bit of a couple last lap issues there with Jason Green, and probably broke that pack up just a little bit more than they wanted. But Andrew Love coming home fourth with Chris Montgomery in fifth. Excuse me, Ron. I'm going to let you take this. I choked on my water again.
Yeah, a quick lesson to any broadcasters out there: swallow before you speak. Believe me, I've been there and done that. I remember one time on a Ray Esports broadcast, I completely lost my voice as I was wrapping up the show, which is possibly the most embarrassing moment of the 20 years that I've been on planet Earth. Rounding out your top 10 is going to be Nick Tulo, finishing second of the Masters racers. Jorg Monty, after starting this race essentially from pit lane, having to serve a drive-through at the very beginning, he ends up finishing in seventh. Suleiman Khan, Brian Hansen, and Daniel Salmon rounding out your top 10. Then we have we'll say Garcia in the 505 car, finishing this race in 11th. Travis Rail going to be finishing this race in 12th. Dan Szynski, even with that drama with himself, his brother Brian, and also I believe it was Fernando Alfonso earlier on, he ends up in lucky number P13. Jeffrey Beck going to finish in 14th. Jason Green going to finish in the 15th position after a heartbreaking collision with himself and Montgomery towards the end. Esteval Laurencio going to finish in 16th. Brian Szynski going to finish in 17th. David Fitzgerald finishing in 18th. Jason Perry in 19th. Michelle Lynn in 20th. Mark Cohn, Arthur Lorero finishing in 22nd. Jason Grider in 23rd. Chris Doden finishing in 24th. Hank Mellon 25th. Michael Lattarulo finishing in 26th. Russ Lundberg in 27th. Nate Coliseo in 28th. Antonio Reese in 29th. Jeff Jacobson in 30th. Fernando Alfonso in 31st. Kurt Nunez in 32nd. Alan DeGasse is going to finish in 33rd. Javier Ropulas finishes in 34th. Stevie Ray finishes in 35th. And rounding out your drivers classified, Adam Thompson.
That was a horrible race.
Yeah, I will come to bat for you. You drove so fast in that race that you're able to circumvent the space-time continuum, end up finishing last despite finishing so in front of the field. That was actually, you finished last of, next season's race here at Brands Hatch, and you drove so fast that you're able to join us in the commentary booth right at the beginning of this broadcast. But we've got a whole lot of drivers waiting in the interview waiting area, Adam, so I'm going to shut my mouth and let you have a chat with somebody.
Yep, I think I'm going to have a chat with somebody that near and dear to my heart, and I'm going to start it off like this. Oh my God, is that Jason Green?
Oh, hello.
Oh, it is Jason Green. Hello, Jason. Figured I'd drag you in here real quick to talk. I know you didn't finish anywhere. And again, like I said in the Week 13 broadcast, everything is not okay, Jason. Really not much you could do there, though, with Chris Montgomery.
Yeah. I mean, he spun in front of me at the last second. I tried to dodge left, which turned out to be the wrong thing to do because it made me hit his tire. Went tire to tire, and the very interesting V physics took over and launched me upside down.
Yes.
So yeah, head to toe, but yeah, I mean, just a racing deal. Chris was just pushing a little too hard. The gravel buildup, or the new feature, kind of, I think, got him out a little bit. But yeah, it was so much fun battling with Thor up until then, and Jim and Chris as well. So
yeah, I wanted to talk to you about that. You guys looked like you were having a blast, and we're watching it right now on stream, which I'm sure we're going to go back and watch later. But yeah, I mean, that is some unbelievable iRacing physics there. And I'm sorry, I've got a bone to pick with iRacing today for some reason. Guys, you've been at it for 24 years. Come on. I mean, first of all, the gravel thing, which where I want to go to, Jason, is it never cleared off. It got worse. So I think what's basically happened here is when track state goes forward, they are now thinking that gravel is increased track state. So it never does clear off if any gravel gets on the track. Am I correct in thinking that?
I mean, that's what it looks like. What it looks like is happening to me. Just as the the track gets more usage, the gravel just appears out of nowhere, even if nobody goes off the track. We saw that yesterday in our Friday practice session as well. Just as the session went on, just more and more gravel just kept appearing, even as we went through it. So, yeah, I know. I think they may need to look at that again because it doesn't appear to be working as intended. But yeah, otherwise, I mean, yeah, it adds an interesting element to it.
Well, you had a lot of fun there, Jason. I'm not going to ask you if you have anybody to thank or shout out because technically we shouldn't be talking to you right now because you didn't finish on the podium. So goodbye, Jason.
Yep. Shout out to Michelle for a great setup.
Oh, yeah. Well, Michelle, obviously. Everybody wants to shout Michelle out. See you later, Jason. I'll talk to you soon.
Yo.
All right. That was Jason Green and Ron. Now we can get to the winners. I just wanted to talk a little bit of crap to Jason there. So who do you want, Ron?
Oh, got a lot of options there. I think I was going to bring in Thor Tula, but I saw that he has his mic muted now, so I will wait a little bit to see if he unmutes.
There it is.
Oh, there we go. Works out perfectly. Thor Tula now joining us in the commentary booth, the winner of the opening race of the season. And Thor, entering this season as the reigning champion, pretty damn good way to kick the season off.
Man, I'm pretty happy to put good to the number one. But I do feel like it was a bit of luck involved with Chris's unfortunate spin. But yeah, I'm really happy to be winning the season opener. And I just absolutely adore Brands Hatch and sim racing and in real life. So just really, really happy to be here.
And I will also say, before we move any further in this interview, thank you, because we made a bet at the start of this broadcast. I pretty much just said that you'd be winning this race, and as a result of it, I have won a small little loaf of Wonder Bread and $10 Monopoly currency. So thank you very much for a well-driven performance here. Was setting a whole lot of pressure, though, finding yourself in the midst of an absolute hornet's nest with yourself, Jason Green, and also Jim Brewster getting involved in that fight as well. So I want to ask you about the fight that you found yourself involved in all throughout this race.
Well, I do feel like Jason and I were able to control the pack for just the entire race. And yeah, we were just swapping places and trying to stay 1-2, and I trust Jason a lot. And yeah, we had some hairy moments, but we were able to really kind of keep the race under control until the incident.
Yeah, overall, though, it looked like a pretty well-composed drive from all of you racers, and I gotta say, from my perspective in the commentary booth, a brilliant way to kick this season off, and a brilliant way for you to kick off your title defense heading into the next race of the season at Lime Rock Park. What are your thoughts heading into that race in 1 week's time?
Well, I absolutely adore Lime Rock. I've got like over 1,000, maybe even 2,000 laps around there, so I'm feeling good about it. Just hopefully I don't get any more 3 wide moments with the other guy in the commentary booth right here.
Yeah, we will find out, won't we, Thor? Hey, it's only the first race. I might be there with you. But hey, real quick, I do want to mention you've got a new fan today.
Oh, do I?
Yeah, we've got a guy in the YouTube chat. His name's Luis, and he said Thor is a dope name, and he's from Japan. I found the driver I'll be rooting for. And quickly, if Luis is still listening, Thor, I think I got this right. I just want to make sure. Obviously, you're from Japan, now living in the UK, correct?
I was born in the US, but I am British-Japanese.
Yes, see, I got that very wrong. So I'm glad you were able to distinguish that. So yes, he does have Japanese in him, I swear, Luis. I didn't get that part wrong, but got the rest of it wrong. Sorry, Ron, I took over your interview there.
Nah, don't worry, it's quite all right. I was trying to see if there's any sort of beverage that I could take a sip of, because my voice is hanging on by the skin of its teeth. But no, thank you very much for that. I gotta say as well, thank you, Thor, because I've been commentating racing on you for a while now, and I still never got that story straight. So thank you very much for the clarification from all of us here. Going to be very inexperienced for you with, 2,000 laps done around Lime Rock Park in your iRacing career. So going to be a bit of a entrance into the unknown in 1 week's time to continue this season, but brilliant way to kick it off for you, man. And before we let go, is there anyone you want to give a thanks to or shout out?
I just want to say thank you to Brabham Motorsport and give a big shout out to my dad. He got his best Weekend Warriors result yet, and I'm really proud of him. And a big thank you to Luis and to you guys at Slow Motion Broadcasting.
Luis seems to be the new chairman of your fan club. Actually, I say that I remember some of the messages that are shared in the YouTube chat towards the end of last season, which I still feel like I may need to ask some therapy money for. But regardless, Thor, well done from a brilliant way to kick this season off, and excited to see you back out on the racetrack for the rest of the season, man. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And that right there was Thortula, your Spec 1 winner from the opening race of the season. And Adam, I think you're here with Andrew Love.
I am. Andrew Love, a guy we really didn't talk about that much, Andrew, which turned out to be a good thing for you because you had a very clean, quiet race, came home winner of Spec 2. How did the race go for you, first of all? Second of all, were there any issues that you almost had that you didn't? Obviously, the Jason Green incident in front of you, I don't know how close you were to that, but yeah, kind of walk us through your race.
Well, I missed 2 big crashes. I was able to get away from 2 big ones. I missed the one on lap 1 where the 2 purple cars, in my view, I guess it was Michelle and Jason got together. So I was able to get around on the inside of that one. That got me about 5 positions there, but I still had lost the lead pack. And I don't know if you caught it, but a couple cars got together in front of me when I was in a pack of 3. They got together right before start finish.
Oh yeah, we caught that one.
And that got me, that kind of left me as an orphan out there by myself, and I had to drive the best laps I could to try to stay ahead from the drafters coming up behind me.
So this is actually a good question to ask you, Andrew. I mean, we were obviously all in that draft party last night running, and I noticed actually it was probably a little bit easier. You're obviously a little bit slower when you're by yourself, but you start getting into the draft of these other vehicles, especially at least around Brands Hatch, and I'm wondering if it's going to be a thing for the rest of the season. It's easier to drive. Were you happy in the position you were in? Not struggling with the oversteer that I was dealing with last night.
Honestly, I love being the last car in a small pack.
Okay.
I don't like being in the middle. I don't like being in the lead. I have too much. I can't handle the pressure. That's my weakness is a mental ability to handle the pressure of the cars behind me. So I actually like being behind. And yeah, when I was behind the pack, it did seem really easy to drive. I had to throttle at like 75% because you just don't need that much to throttle to keep up with the cars ahead of you when you're in the draft.
Right.
And then I had a great time the last couple laps chasing down Chris. I guess he had damage from when he and Jason got together.
Yes.
But I was having a lot of fun chasing him down, and I felt bad that I actually caught him because I heard him making mistakes. He was missing gears, shifting, and missing apexes. So I felt bad for him.
Well, I mean, it's just one of those things. You can feel bad about your fellow competitors, right? But that doesn't mean you're not gonna take the position away. You can feel as bad as you want, Andrew, but you still want that spot.
I wanted to bury him behind me. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, Andrew, we got Lime Rock coming up next week. Any thoughts on that? Is obviously going to be a very what's the word? I'm trying to think. Historic. Yeah, it's going to be historic. I mean. Every time we go to Lime Rock, it's just going to be an absolutely crazy race, and we know that. But are you ready for it? What do you do to prepare for a track that really you don't need much preparing for? You just got to hang on and pray.
I take my personal car, out to the local highway, and I drive the opposite direction towards incoming traffic, just so I can practice dodging cars going different this way and that way.
Absolutely. I totally understand everything you're talking about right now, Andrew. But is there anything anybody you want to thank or shout out before we let you go?
Thanks to the sponsors. They're always good people to sponsor the race. I know the V's have a full season sponsor, so we're happy about that. Thank you guys for doing the announcing. Thanks to my fellow competitors for not taking me out. And it was a great race. Thank you.
Real quick, Trenton Kramer in the chat said he had no problem with the pressure at Indy last season. So, Trenton shouting you out for your ability to hold up to pressure at Indianapolis.
Trenton will have to go back and watch the replay. I was in the back of the pack for most of that race. The pack I was in.
There you go, Trenton. You heard it here first. Go back and get your facts straight before you come in.
Go watch the video. Watch the video, then we'll talk.
Exactly. All right, Andrew, thank you so much, and we hope to be talking to you again soon.
Sure thing, guys. All right, thanks.
That was Andrew Love and Mr. Maunz. I am going to give you the absolute pleasure of talking to league admin and third place overall, Mr. Jim Brewster.
Forget that. I'm the first Masters winner. Come on, dude.
There you go. Come on, Adam. Get your shift together, man.
Put me in. Okay, so folks, I haven't touched the steering wheel in 2 weeks, vacation and stuff. But So here's the
Liar.
lesson. I retired this week, so maybe everybody should quit their jobs and they'll get faster. How's that?
I bet you that is a great way to get more people to drive the FVs. Everyone quit your jobs. Nobody care. Don't worry about where you're going to make your money from. Just come run with us on Saturday afternoons.
And you'll be happy. Your life will be happy. You'll be at peace. No, I really want to shout out to Nick Tulo, second in Masters. Bravo. Nick is one of our faithful people, and that's a great result for him. York had a killer drive up from the back of the pack from the pit lane up to third. Andrew had a killer drive. Anyway, it was a lot of fun up front. I hope you enjoyed the show.
Absolutely, Ron. I'm going to hand him over to you, I promise, after I make this statement. Jim, you lied. This is not the first time you picked up the steering wheel in 2 weeks because you were racing with me last night.
Well, but, right. But that's
All right,
all
Ron.
part of this. That's all part of this,
All right, Ron, take it away, buddy.
Adam always has to add in those technicalities. But Jim, I feel like this is probably not news to you considering you're the series admin, but we're going to be running at Lime Rock in 1 week's time. I know you're a fan of Lime Rock too, be sure. It was basically your childhood racetrack. So thoughts heading into that one? I'm sure you're going to have some fun.
But forget about that. I mean, the weekend with Tam in the booth was just amazing, and that's a major point in our family's life. But remember our race 2 seasons ago, that season-ending race. I would put that race up against anybody in iRacing, say, show them that tape and say, beat that, folks. But that was just that race, and that's why we're running the classic instead of the GP form. But anyway, yeah, today was a lot of fun, a lot of fun. There was some good tight racing up there, and Chris and Jason and Tor. The Jason and Tor show, it looks like that might be the story for this season, maybe,
I gotta say something as well on the subject of choosing the classic layout of Lime Rock Park. I am absolutely in favor of that decision, not only because the past 2 times that the Formula Vee Weekend Warriors have run around that track, it was absolutely brilliant racing. Those chicanes, I feel like Jimmy could probably speak to this as well. Those chicanes, it's like trying to drink scalding hot coffee with a face full of Novocaine.
Well, when I call the first chicane at the uphill, I call that the shopping mall entrance. Because it feels like you're turning off a highway into a shopping mall. Hey, let me catch you up. Just give you some news, okay? I don't know if you saw the schedule. We got some good tracks. I think we really picked a really fun bunch of tracks. But here's the big news. We're going to do rain twice. I haven't decided where, but I will be announcing it a full week before the race. And I will even probably talk about whether it's going to be moderate or light or heavy rain. So we will do rain twice. I want to do some testing to figure out which tracks I think will work best.
That's going to be a riot. That is going to add even more spikes to these races.
It might be Truxton,
Possibly.
Because it's so big and wide and flat open. So I don't know. I think maybe I'll leave that dry since we'll be new and just leave it to be a monster draft party, which Jason doesn't like.
Yeah,
he likes
I was
to run
gonna...
away. He doesn't like us. I'll catch him.
Yeah, when he said, I remember last night, he goes, it's going to be boring. I was like, your definition of boring and my definition of boring are 2 completely different definitions, I think, here, Jason.
That's because you're thinking of a television show, and I am too. I want a TV show. Hey, let's one thing. You guys didn't hear this because it was on the microphones. Before the race, we said there was going to be no anvils, and Michelle said, "You're talking about me, right?" I said, "Yeah," and Stevie. And you notice they both got hit by anvils in the first half lap. So
you can blame Ron for that.
Okay.
Yep. Absolutely.
In chief of that's puts him in the Wile E. Coyote Acme anvil business.
Ron,
I nice at all.
Yeah. Yeah, Ron, that's going to be something that you have to answer.
Ron, I think you're gonna have to get a T-shirt. You need to get an Acme T-shirt.
Yeah, that would be pretty nice, actually. I'm pretty sure around here, I think it's only a Philadelphia thing. We got the Acme line of grocery stores as well, so I could not walk around in public with that. Otherwise, people would be thinking that'd be wearing grocery store merchandise.
I gotta say hi to Tam, and I believe Stevie's still looking for a nickname for the Tuesday night chat group, the chat gang.
Yes.
I'm thrilled that she's made the effort to show up every Tuesday and join in. And now that I can stay up a little later, I think I'll be joining in that chat, and then joining in on all the fun on Tuesday nights.
Yeah, no, massive shout out to Tam, and obviously Tam, I think, is what makes the chat world go around here for SMB. She always comes in.
You want to know why, Adam?
What's that?
You want to know why? I grew up with this girl. She's smarter than all of us.
You just said that about your sister. You're probably going to hear about that later. You know that, right? You're never going to live that, or you're never going to live that down.
She's a few years younger than I am. I thought I was smart until she was born, and then I learned, okay, maybe I'm not so smart. I don't know if any of you have younger sisters or younger brothers.
I do. I have 2 younger sisters. I know exactly what you're talking about, but you're a bigger man than I am because I would never admit it.
No.
All right. Real quick, Jim, but we're running out of time here. Anybody you want to thank or shout out for that we let you go that you haven't already done?
Well, I have to give patience, now that Molly and I are both retired here together. So, she's going to have to, she's getting more adjusted to this racing. And I'll probably might be racing a little bit less on Sundays, but I'm going to try to work real hard on the Saturdays and keep this V thing going really well.
Absolutely, Jim. Well, thank you so much for all of your work. You and Michelle do, Stevie Ray included in that, but you guys really have done so much for this league over the past couple seasons. It was unbelievable to see 36 cars on the grid. And
I'm celebrating. This is probably my best result for the season. So I'm
absolutely. Yeah, massive kudos to you, Jim. Thank you so much. And if you keep this up, this probably won't be the last time we talk to you this season, but I hope to talk to you again soon.
We shall see.
All right.
See you guys later.
See you later, Jim. That was Jim Brewster. Always a good time, Ron.
Oh, yeah, he is a fantastic guy to have an interview with. Always steals the show as well. The interview. There's never a dull moment in an interview with Jim Brewster.
Absolutely not. No, I just and that's just a massive shout out to this league as well. The people running it, the people in it. Just oh man, I cannot say enough about what the Weekend Warriors have done for me as a person, and I say it all the time, and I'm gonna say it till my face is blue. I mean, what they've done for slow motion broadcasting for me as just an individual with everything going on in my life, and the people that have rallied behind me to give me a place for an outlet. Just if I just want to bitch, sorry, Josh. If I just want to talk about something, they're always there to listen to me, and even if they don't have the answers, that's just an unbelievably great group of people.
Yeah, it's a fantastic group of people here at SMB. Always love to be a part of these broadcasts. Ever since I used to do them over on the other broadcaster. It's I think.
Well, we've got some
a straggler.
Yeah, we do have a straggler. Yeah, we got a cool. All right. Well, this is coming from the new SMB production manager saying we have time for you, Jorg. But you're here, Jorg, and great result. What happened at the beginning, and why did you go into the pits?
For fun? No. No, I had suddenly absolutely no force feedback anymore. 3 corners before the start, and I decided to go through the pits because it's more safe. Because as you know by yourself maybe, that if you have no force feedback, you have absolutely no control on the car. And then I restarted my force feedback tool, and then I could continue. And but it was fun. It was fun. I could catch up. Got some lucky about some freebies, and it was really fun.
You did. You finished P3 in the Masters. Actually, you gained 2 positions from your starting position, even though you had to drive through the pits. But this is a great question, I think, to ask you, Jorg, is Formula V's, Formula Fords, and Spec Racer Fords.
Yeah.
Which one? These, I think, the Formula V or the Formula Fords and the SRFs for me are a little bit easier to drive. When you don't have force feedback in a Formula V, they want to kill you anyways. So yeah, I mean, it's got to be tough for you. But which one is the easiest for you to drive out of those 3?
It's difficult. I mean, you know that I completely lost the touch on the Spec Ford last 2 seasons, completely. And since the new tire model, the SRF is actually very good drivable for me again. So I'm expecting quite a lot from me in the SRF, especially in Mount Panorama. I love this track.
Oh, I cannot wait for those races tomorrow, Jorg.
Yeah, me neither. But the Formula Ford, it's definitely my favorite car. And for me now, that one is the easiest to drive because I can hammer that car around the corners like ever I want. And that's the thing for me, and that makes that tire model that we drive at the moment, that makes it possible. Because especially with the Spec Ford, I can attack now every single lap again. And before I could do that 1 lap and my tires were gone, and then I wasn't,
Well, I mean, nonetheless, you still had a great drive up to 7th place overall, Jorg. But we got Lime Rock coming up next week. I guess my next question to you is, are you going to be hanging around for a little while for these Formula Vs?
I hope so, but I have a girlfriend, and sometimes we're together on Saturday, Sunday, and then I will not be able to race on Saturday. So, but if I can, I will do. Yeah.
Well, we hope to see you again, Jorg. But is there anybody you want to thank or shout out before we let you go?
Definitely for you guys and for all the team behind the Weekend Warriors. They're doing absolutely great job. I love to race in the league, and congrats to Ron as well. I was listening to his iracing expansion, or what do you say? No, adventure, and I really liked that. And yeah, that's actually it.
All right. Well, Jorg, thank you so much. We hope to be talking to you again soon, and congratulations on your P7.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys, and have a nice evening.
Yeah, you as well. Well, I'm going to have a nice afternoon. It's 12:50 in the afternoon here, Jorg.
Yeah, it's almost 10 here. 10 in the night.
Well, you have a nice evening.
Thanks a lot, guys. Bye-bye.
That was Jorg Monty there. Obviously, P7 overall, great guy to talk to as well. Well, we had a little bit of everything, Ron. That's for sure.
Oh, we absolutely did. From some very odd and goofy looking collisions to certain corners around this racetrack being completely coated in dirt and dust. This race had just about everything, I gotta say, Adam. It is a brilliant way to kick off Season 1 for 2025 for the Formula Vee Weekend Warriors, a race which is won by Thor Tulo, a brilliant way for him to kick off his title defense from this series. We also gotta look at another class, the Masters as well. Jim Brewster, I mentioned it earlier on, probably gonna be the championship favorite coming into this season, and that's a pretty good way for him to kick off that possible title charge. But Adam, as a brilliant way to kick off this season, we're going to be heading to a track which just, it's like a factory producing great racing here with the Formula V's Lime Rock in 1 week's time. I am so ready for that. That's going to be brilliant.
Yeah, Lime Rock for the Formula V's, it always is going to be brilliant no matter what. I mean, I don't think it matters how long or short that front straight is around Lime Rock. There are still going to be some absolutely unbelievable finishes at the line. Now, I wish they would move the start-finish line back just a little bit more than where it's at, because I think we'd have some barn burners there, but it's still one of my favorite races, at least to cover. Not so much to race, because it scares the living crap out of me for 30 minutes, but you are going to have a blast up here, Rob.
Oh, I'm going to have a blast. My vocal cords are going to be hating me when that broadcast is done. But still, if you want to stay tuned with all the action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, remember to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. And I think before we wrap things up, we should probably take a look at some of the stuff coming up here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, because have it be known that the action does not stop, and doubly so considering that we're coming to the start of this brand new iRacing season. Tomorrow, gonna have the action with the Formula Fords and their series opening race at Silverstone. The Spec Racer Fords, meanwhile, going to make their appearance at Brands Hatch. And then the week after that, Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy holidays. And then we return. We re-rack it with the Formula V's running at Lime Rock Park in just 1 week's time on Saturday, December the 18th at 11:20 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I believe it's about 3 hours after that, but still, that gives you more of a reason to subscribe to Slow Motion Broadcasting and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on any of these broadcasts that may so happen to be here. And also after the holidays as well, stay tuned on Wednesdays for the racing. Stay tuned on Tuesdays over on the Ray Esports YouTube channel for the Racing Line podcast once that starts up after the holidays, and stay tuned on Wednesday for the Ray Esports Club Racing League. But here with the Weekend Warriors, ready to hit the ground running for Season 1 of 2025, and this was a brilliant way to kick things off. But I think for this broadcast, that will just about do it. And so for myself, Ron Maunz, Adam Thompson joining me in the commentary booth, and Josh Wilkie doing a wonderful job working all the cameras in the virtual production hauler, I say thank you all so very much for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and we hope to see you all wherever it is in the not too far off future.
Oh, yes, that is a great way to end it.
We welcome you all to Slow Motion for this presentation of the Formula Vee Weekend Warrior Series, and we're about to grab the start in just a few moments' time. It's going to be Megan Overstreet leading them to green with Ladar right alongside. We're waiting for that green flag to come at, and the drivers are now on their way. some of these drivers may be a little bit more aggressive towards the end of this race as side by side with Love and DeGassis heading into 5.
Oh, it's close. It's a bit treacherous on the corner. Rex is just singling run wide there, Ron.
Down the running order, Love and Brewster, meanwhile, they have been in the tow and they've seen all these drivers try and do their own maneuvers. They definitely have something cooking behind the wheel of those FV race cars as Montgomery gets that move done. One's running at the back. Well, not actually running right now, I don't believe, as there's a spinner with Ladar.
Oh, no.
Oh, and there's contact as well.